Oh God, we come to you this morning, and we are hungry for your still speaking voice to speak your word afresh into our life. And so we pray this morning that the words of my mouth, of all of our mouths, and the meditations of our hearts would be pleasing to you. And where or if we depart from your Spirit, O God, may that quickly fall away. Amen. Well, it sounds sweet, romantic even, to our ears. The Sadducees' questions, that is. When I die, will I be reunited with my life partner? And what if they, or I myself, have remarried, found a second life partner, or another? Who will I be with then? Or will we all just be together? Oof. That could be messy. Maybe we've wondered the same thing ourselves. The reality of human life is that all of us are terminal. All of us are dying. And all of us wonder what will be on the other side of that great transition. Or if we'll be reunited with loved ones who have passed on ahead of us. It's natural. We miss them terribly. Maybe our own experiences with grief gives us a lot of sympathy for those Sadducees, waiting for reassurance from Jesus that they will be reunited with their loved ones. But the truth is, that's actually not at all what is going on in this passage. These aren't sweet, romantic questions from the Sadducees. They aren't even genuine ponderings. It's easy to forget the context, forget who the Sadducees are, forget that they didn't even believe in an afterlife and resurrection. And while we're so used to translating masculine language into inclusive language for everyone, all men are created equal really means all of us, that kind of thing, then in our modern day heads, we imagine that the Sadducees could have just as easily chosen to speak their question from the woman's point of view. A woman died childless and left behind her husband with no children, so he married sister after sister of hers, trying to produce an heir for her. In the afterlife, which woman will the man belong to? But of course, the Sadducees never would have spoken that way to suggest that a man could possibly belong to a woman. That would have been preposterous to them, and their time and their place, their culture. It was a woman who was the property of her husband. Her husband couldn't belong to her, only she belonged to anyone. She was owned by her father, and then by her husband, and if he died, then by whoever inherited her. She was property. And so you see, this conversation with Jesus isn't really a bunch of religious leaders musing genuinely about heaven and whether they're going to be reunited with their deceased loves of their lives. It's a bunch of wealthy politicians consulting their lawyers and asking a question about how property rights are going to work in the afterlife. Whose possession will this woman be? And of course, it's assumed that she won't have any say in the matter. They could have just as easily said, a man died and left his mansion behind. Another man moved into the mansion, and then he died, and then so another one moved in, and so on and so on. Whose house will the mansion be in the resurrection? You see, it's this question that's meant to trap Jesus. The way a fellow politician on the debate stage might say to another, sounds great. How are you going to pay for it? Are you proposing to steal my wealth? Now you know the powerful are never going to go for taking money from the rich. You sure you want to go down that road? Questions about the afterlife are nothing new. Augustine in the 3rd century once mused about the resurrection of our bodies. He asked if we would be reunited with all of our nail clippings and hair clippings. You know, all those parts of the body that just keep growing and growing and that we have to regularly throughout our life cut to keep them maintained. Augustine wants to know, will our toenail clippings come crawling out of the wastebaskets and the sewers and the dumps and the little cracks in the floorboard where they currently reside and become restored to our bodies? Exactly. Pretty much so that we look like woolly mammoths with long, curly nails, right? Doesn't that sound good? And to the Sadducees, consulting their lawyers about property rights, and probably to Augustine too, Jesus says, hey, you're missing the point. You're asking all the wrong questions. At the resurrection, when life begins in full in God's kingdom, you won't just be picking up where you left off. One thing that will be different, for instance, is that no one will be anyone else's property, given to another against your will. It's almost as if Jesus says to them, do you really think that owning women and controlling their bodies will be a thing, could be a thing, in God's kingdom, in the realm full of total liberation? You really think that's going to be a thing? The resurrection will be a time when the caged bird will sing and fly free. It will be a place where everyone belongs, but no one is owned. It's not just about having life again. It's about having new life. Everyone having new, liberated life. And no, I think if asked, Jesus would probably say that the likelihood of our reunification with our toenails is about as likely as a human continuing to own another human being in God's realm. Everything that is unnecessary, everything that harms us or weighs on us will be clipped from us in the resurrection. The resurrection is that realm where you give yourself freely. It's a realm where those imprisoned in body or mind, like those with Parkinson's or MS or Alzheimer's or just struggling with aging bodies, will be freed. It's a realm where there is no school-to-prison pipeline, where there will be no time cards to punch in and out of a job you hate, where someone owns your time for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, just so you can feed and clothe and house your family. In this realm, there will be no privilege or discrimination that allows you to hold power over someone else or them to hold power over you. I recently read that as the wildfires blaze in California, threatening homes, housekeepers are not being warned, and they're showing up to clean these homes in evacuation zones where the fires are just not far off. And meanwhile, men and women prisoners are being put to work to put out these fires, expected to risk their lives. But of course, despite this experience, they cannot even expect to be able to secure firefighting jobs when they get out of prison. You know, that whole record thing that you carry around with you. Life in the resurrection. Life in this is life where that sort of thing doesn't happen. Where everyone's life is treated like it matters and not like property. And here's the thing. When Jesus talked about living the resurrected life, about stepping into new life, about being born again of the Spirit, about entering the kingdom of God, it wasn't just something out there in the future, it was something that was breaking in right here, right now. Something that could begin among the faithful right here, right now. No, it wouldn't come in its fullness until the end, but it could begin here and now. That realm is a realm where you won't have to sell yourself into debt to get health care for you or for a loved one. Both of our denominations recently have taken that promise seriously. The National UCC, along with 3 local congregations, recently paid off the medical debt of the poorest South Side Chicago neighborhoods. Over $5 million in debt. A medium-sized Presbyterian church in Ohio, with a little help from their presbytery, recently eliminated a big chunk of the state's medical debt. You can buy that debt for pennies on the dollar. And most who do that do so that they can own others, so that they can profit off of the poor. But our denomination said, no, you know what? We're going to buy that debt, and then we're going to live as resurrection kingdom people, not as profiteers. We're going to liberate the captives. We're going to cancel the debts. We're going to let people get a taste of resurrection freedom right here, right now. Maybe someday in the future we won't just pay off the debts, but we'll actually change the system that indebts people to begin with. The Sadducees of our day might come to Jesus after consulting their corporate lawyers and say to him, a debt collector dies who owns millions in medical debt. Another replaces him, and then another replaces him. In the resurrection, who will own that medical debt? To which I believe Jesus would respond, you are seriously missing the point. No one will be given into debt in the resurrection. And maybe that's not very good news for the debt collectors, but man, is it good news for those who are crippled by debt right now. I wish I had some definitive answer for you about what reunification with our loved ones will be like in the resurrection. That, unfortunately, is not what Jesus is asked in our passage today, much as it might appear so at first glance. I have no idea what it will look like, but here's what I do know. I know that life will be, must be, radically new and different in the kingdom of God. I know that living in true freedom, in pure, unadulterated love, will radically alter how we live and how we love and how we are in relationship with one another. And I do know that this kind of resurrection life can start now if we choose to be liberators. We don't have to wait until death to begin living this way. We don't even have to wait until the unjust systems of our world change to begin living this way. That's one of the things our denomination is witnessing to me right now. Thanks be to God. Amen. Please stand and join us for our next song, Freedom is Coming. You'll find it on the screen.